Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show, and today we have another great guest. We've been in the vicinity of each other for a while now, and just been going back and forth. We're like, man, we need to get something on schedule. It's taken a while, but we finally got him locked in, and it's awesome. I'm really, really excited for this podcast. There's a lot to talk about, and so let's dive in. Joshua Graves, he owns a mortgage brokerage. He owns a fitness supplement company. And more important than all of those, he's a great father, great husband, and he is constantly seeking for ways to be better at, everything, not just one thing, but how does he become better in all the areas of his life and excel at a high level, and make sure there's time for all of that. And that's one of the things that has restricted time to meet, is how do we fit in the schedule of all those things that he's becoming great at. And another cool thing about Josh is he's just very humble. Even though he's achieved like a high level of success in some people's minds, and probably even in his own compared to what he started out thinking he could accomplish, he's still constantly looking for the next thing to get better. He's not settled. He's not like, oh, I've achieved more than I ever thought possible, I'm done. He's constantly looking for how can he do more? How can he be more? How can he have a bigger impact? Not just on the world around him, but how can he be a better husband? How can he be a better father? Those are some of the first conversations that Joshua and I ever had, was about that, not about business or anything else. So I'm really grateful that we finally have the time to do this, but I want people to kind of understand your history as far as how you came up. What was your family situation like? What kind of values, morals, and principles did you learn from a young age? What did you change? And what have you kept through this journey of success?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you so much. That is a very good introduction. Thank you. That was awesome. So how I grew up with a single mom for the most part. My parents split when I was 7, but my dad was a Marine, an active Marine. So he was gone all the time, he was always deployed. So, when they split when I was 7, my mom, single mom, held multiple jobs when just to keep food on the table and the lights on at night, really raising me and my little brother, Jake. So, it was kind of crazy. I actually moved quite a bit. I moved 20 times from K1 to K12, a total of 20 times. The only way I know this is because I screwed up on my passport when it was me and my wife's, when we were going on our honeymoon back 13 years ago. They're like, oh, sure, you don't need your birth certificate. Just give us your social security number and that's it, because I forgot my birth certificate. They're like, it'll be fine. If not, we'll let you know. Well, they let me know, and they're like, we want to know everywhere you've ever lived, everywhere you've ever worked, and every address you worked, lived, and anywhere, all the addresses. So it was a lot. And, looking back, I realized that I was crafting a great skill in sales, and that is to evolve and adapt to any situation. Every school can be brutal. Kids can be brutal, and you got to learn how to be able to fit in. And I had to just reestablish myself. Sometimes it's kind of fun. Like say in 9th grade, I got into rap in 8th grade, but nobody knew me as a little wankster. So when I moved to St. George, I bought some lugs and oversized, button-up shirt. And I was able to be a little bit of a wankster, like only listening to rap. That whole year, I had this little rap persona And I don't know, there's like little things like that. You kind of disguise yourself, be whoever you want, reinvent yourself. And I'm always reinventing myself. I read somewhere a long time ago that if you're this is probably like a little bit out of left field, but kind of relates to sales. So in sales, I read this sales book. I can't remember which book it was, but it said, if you work for somebody and you're in sales, don't ever work for anybody for longer than 5 years. Because the whole goal is to get on your own, become your own entrepreneur. But if you have to work for somebody, don't ever go longer than 5 years. I've actually done that when I was working for somebody else. It was always a 5-year gig. And so going back to where I moved a lot, mom, had to work all the time. Coming home after school, there was nobody there to help out with homework or whatever. She had me at 16. So like she wasn't there for one, she had to work. And then it was just really, really hard. So I knew that I didn't want that lifestyle for my kids. So how do I break away from that chain or that label of being, the kid from the broke apartment? And what happened was when I was 12 years old, I picked up a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm always trying to get people to like me. So, moving so dang much. A lot of times kids will like hate you right off the bat. So just because you're the new kid. And yeah, so I picked up this book. This book said that sales was, made the world go around. And so I said, okay, I really want to get into sales eventually. Whenever I can get the opportunity, I want to do sales. And started doing sales at Trend West Resorts as a tour center. And you've probably been invited to do a tour before for a timeshare company. I'm imagining everybody's gotten a call. And with these tours, we invite them in. They get a picnic basket of like fruits and a free vacation if they come listen to this dude talk about why they should buy into timeshare. And we were the ones calling on these cold leads of folks that dropped a ticket into a box to potentially win a four-wheeler and a vacation here at our local movie theater complex called Jordan Commons. And we would just cold call them and invite them in. And what it taught me is I had to go through a lot of rejection to get that one yes. Typically, you're looking at 10 calls to get one yes. And I learned how to set goals there. And I also would hear my team lead, his name's Shep Shepard. I would hear this dude, he's like 135 pounds soaking wet. That's my team lead. And I heard him crushing the phones no matter what, like just smiling and being super jovial over the phone with folks, getting there super early, leaving late. That was like my first like hard worker in sales that I saw just crush numbers. So I said, okay, well, that guy is super dedicated. He's making good money. He has a townhome, which is really cool. If you're a senior in high school, you're like, I want a freaking townhome. That sounds awesome. And yeah, he had the most baritone voice ever. He sounded like John. He's like the white jaw, just super baritone. And yeah, so he taught me the value of working hard and in a sales dynamic. But yeah, that was my first job. But I did take an opportunity to do summer sales. Have you ever done summer sales, Sam?
I did 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang, dude. So you're a killer, I'm sure. You stay longer than a year, you're freaking killing it. Yeah. I did 3 months in downtown Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. And it was scary. Super scary. There's gunshots at night. Like, we'd have like dudes be like, what are you boys doing out here? Like, get home. Like, this is not safe. And but yeah, constantly pitching people and trying to get in their house to show them where their security systems could be. And I felt miserably. I actually found reasons not to knock the doors. You know, it was like my whole MO was like figuring out in my head how to get out of it almost. You know, it was really, I could say that I really pounded sand in security cells. Yeah, I thought I was going to go out of security cell, or I thought I was going to be done with cells entirely at that moment. Um, but, you know, having worked at as a lot tech for a dealership for a year, I was like, okay, no, this is getting me nowhere. You know, I thought I was going to become a pharmacist. I went to Utah Tech University and worked as a lot tech there while I was going to college. My grades were terrible. I moved so much to school. Like, it was so hard. Like, I was terrible. I'm like, okay, well, obviously I'm not doing good in school, and you know, obviously not going to be a law tech. So I got to go back into sales, and that's when I went back to RC Willey, which is a furniture store, and they have an up system, and so any clients that come up the escalator, we would greet them, ask them what they're there for, and show them the different products so they could buy, say a TV, the 52-inch TV, or go to the 52-inch TVs and try to upsell on whatever TV is paying us the best. Basically, Sony's were always paying really hot. Samsung paying really hot. Sometimes we'd have spit money, so a vendor would be like, "Hey, sell this one. We'll give you $50 to Olive Garden." There was a sound system that I always sell because of that Sharp. There's probably like 1,000 people in Utah with a Sharp like sound bar. So yeah, that's what you do. But the cell that really attracted me there in RC Willey was the warranty cells, because warranty is something that is not tangible. It's something that you just sell people on because they trust what you're saying, and the pay on it was extremely high. So I thought that was the coolest kind of sell there for retail. And yeah, I learned that craft really well. I was able to hit, I was always second in warranty cells there at RC Willey. There's this guy named Duck that was the hardest worker I probably know. I still know him to this day. And he's an extremely hard worker. And he outpaced me every single time. Even when I was close, he would just stay like 3 hours longer. Like, holy cow. But anyways, hit huge numbers there with warranty. And then I heard this, like, I was at the gym during this time. I was coming up on my 4th, 5th year of RC Willey. So I knew I had to get out. I knew it was about time to get out of the retail site, because it's almost 5 years. And I know I can't stay anywhere for 5 years. So I was at the gym one day and I heard a loud, jaw rule sounding baritone voice. And, it was the chef. We're like, "Hey, Graves, what's up?" Like, this is my old team lead from Trend West. And he had been promoted to the upgrades department at Trend West, which is now Worldmark. They changed their name, sold by Wyndham. And the upgrades department, this department was where all the dudes with Hummers and like they're beefed up, they work out in time, had the hot girlfriends, had a home. That's where they all hang out. They're like, treating it like Boiler Room, like Vin Diesel and Boiler Room. Have you seen Boiler Room?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like one of the original down and dirty inside sales type movies. So yeah, I'm like, okay, that's like, what do you make? And he said 25 grand. And that's like almost half of my income at that time. It's RC Willey at best is paying not that great. So 25 grand's a shit ton of money. He said he's making that in that month. I go, okay, that's sick. I can do what you do. Can you get me in? And then he got me in front of them and was able to hit President's Club there, which is a big deal in the timeshare world. But my real huge, big milestone would be when I decided to do mortgages, I had watched my mom get into mortgages. She started while I was in high school, and I saw her growth really starting to her trajectory was going up at a substantial rate over especially the last 4 years. So and at this time, I had been over at Worldmark for about 4 years. So I'm on my fifth year. I know I got to get out. So I decided to switch over to mortgages. I thought I could use those sales skills from timeshare and incorporate them in mortgages and probably really crush it. And the first year was really hard. I was with a lender. They didn't let me be free and work the way I needed to work. They thought everybody's just some kid that doesn't know how to sell, I guess. And I had a leash on me the whole time. It was terrible. I did not like it. I quickly found a broker, and I started to become really free with how I could market and how I could go ahead and collect clients, whatever way that is. So I could do whatever marketing I wanted to do. And I had no money at this time. So I did start Ubering. So I did start Ubering for like a day. I Ubered. Thank God I got to check like the next day because it was fucking terrible. Like there's nothing worse than Ubering. Like I don't know how people do that. There's such weirdos in the backseat. I was like, what is happening? So anyways, I had nobody at the time, decided to get with the broker. This broker let me do whatever marketing I wanted to do. Didn't matter. You're almost an entrepreneur at that point, but you're under a brokerage. So I didn't have any money. How do I make money? How do I find clients? Well, a title company was able to give me a list of folks that had bought at a certain time, and their name and the address. I didn't have any phone numbers, but because I knew how to find phone numbers from timeshare, I quickly found phone numbers. And what I would do is every Monday, I would sit there for 3 hours and write a list of 100 clients to prospect that for the rest of the week. And I would sit and, count the phones and just a real simple pitch. Hey, you bought it this time. Rates have dropped since then. I think I could save you a lot of money. When's a good time to talk? Can you talk to him? And it's really something because it's like, hey, this is Jock from such and such. I'm calling because of this and that. Are you ready to go over it right now? Extremely assumptive. And I got to the point where I was doing one loan a month from that. I got paid $5,000. Like all that's, then I have two. I got paid $10,000. I got to the point where I got 5 and I'm making $25,000. Like, oh, this is super sick. Now I can go ahead and do other types of marketing. So I started investing in other types of marketing. I got the phones ringing to where I am now closing 25 loans a month. And this is a lot of money. It's crazy money. So, hit like 550 1 year. And then I hit 950 in another year. I'm like, okay, so I'm now making sick money, and any kind of person that I looked up to in sales, I've actually blown past whatever they were at. I didn't know many salesmen that are making over $1 million. So I said, what's the next step here? I'm now 4 years in. Let's go ahead and start my own company. So then I started Rockwell Mortgage, my first brokerage in 2022. And this is during when the rates were extremely high, which not that big of a deal because I had just made a shit ton of money. So I don't care. I start a company and it's slow. Good. This is a lot of work for me. There's a lot of back end stuff I have to learn. So just did, about 4 deals a month, 3 to 4 deals a month, and just learning the process a little bit. And then I had a friend come to me and propose an opportunity to get into the health sphere, the health space with a pre-workout. And I had been going over this in my head, what it would take to do a pre-workout, and have reached out to certain manufacturers. I was already looking into it. It just so happened he was too, along with our other friend Ben. They had this idea, and it was called Bullfit. And I'm like, okay, well, your name's better than my name, and I don't know distribution at all. You guys know distribution. You guys know who I am. Like, I know these guys since high school, so I was always the one they were daring to do stuff that they didn't want to do. Like, they know I'm the outgoing one and the one to talk to everybody. So that's what they saw, my strength. And then, we went hamtown on it, and I've been working out quite a bit, and getting myself in shape at this point. And I knew exactly what I wanted in a pre-workout, because I had been taking it like crazy. So we started formulating this pre-workout. And the pre-workout actually does have a nootropic in it as well. So you feel good after the workout. It's we have the blend, the nootropic blend. I needed that in there because I've been in sales for 20 years, and I know I need something to fill up all day. So we have the nootropic blend on the back end of things, but we crafted it so you have the perfect workout. We have 5 grams of creatine in it, so it's the full serving. You don't have to do that separately. We have a very natural approach to everything. We have sucralose, no artificial flavoring, no artificial sweeteners. It's really, really healthy for you. And so that's basically, how I got to where I'm at now. And today, Rockwell, with rates have dropped quite a bit. And now we're extremely understaffed, and our volume's been crushing. We're doing a lot of transactions. I'm getting my phone ringing off the hook all the time. I'm going to take this off of Bluetooth too. Beeping in my ear. So, and Bullfit, our marketing has been absolutely insane. We started in January. If you live here in Utah, especially northern Utah, it's very rare that you don't know what that is. And we've only launched, just recently. So we're months, not years. And if you compare that to some of the more popular brands out there, we have Bucked Up, started in 2014. We have Clean Simple Eats, is really popular now in Utah, and they started in 2015. So I just recently learned about Clean Simple Eats probably 3 years ago. Everybody knows that. However, it took them, about 6 years before people started really catching on. So if we've got people catching on in 6 months to 7 months, that's pretty insane. So it's pretty great. GNC, we just inked a deal with them to be in 450 locations. And they're like, we'll buy every SKU you have. You wore windbreakers. We love you. Our first photo shoot was, I bought windbreakers on Amazon, and we did like a 90s, 80s shoot. And I just found people at my gym to come with me to model. It was really quick, and they're like, we love it. We love the windbreakers. Who would have known that these they're like, where do you sell these? We're like, we'll get working on them.
Yeah, we'll find some for you.
It's on Amazon. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm experiencing some success, and what people can get out of me is they can watch me grow at real time from the ground up, and I don't think anybody really has that good of an opportunity to do that. I don't know anybody that's doing that. A lot of people that you watch that are already successful, or they've already sold for millions, but you don't watch it, and I definitely bet on me every time. I know that I can accomplish my goals, so it could be a fun journey for those who watch.
Yeah, well, and I want to dig into this because a lot of the things that you're now experiencing, they're really successes and identities that were formed at a very young age. And I think anybody who thinks that success is an overnight success really doesn't understand the process. So even in your journey from all the different things that you went through, one, you just got a lot of experience moving from 20 times. Like you move that often, you develop a lot of experience that is unique and uncommon for the general person to have. And so that's 20, and well, I would say, let's say 12 years worth of experience that most people don't have. So then you go into the workforce and you're getting little chunks of this other experience in 5-year segments or 4-year segments that, again, most people don't have. And yeah, you achieved certain levels of success. You were the best in your small pond in some of those areas. And then you blow past some of the people. But the major point is, in this journey, you become the identity of, I'm going to be the best. If I can do it, I can do it. Whatever it is. I see this person at the top. I'm going to become at least maybe the second best. I'm going to be at the top of my game all the time. And that's important to me. So these are the identities that you're carrying through all the way through. So now when somebody comes and says, hey, I want to do a business with you, are you, I mean, this is a question for the audience. Are you the person that somebody wants to do a business with because they know your reputation, because they know your work ethic? Not because Josh knows what he wants in the perfect workout, but because they know that Josh will work until the job gets done and he's going to make it successful. He's going to talk to who he needs to. He's going to act in confidence. He's great at communicating. That's why they want to work with Josh, not because he's ripped, because he is, not because he likes specific pre-workouts, but because anything that he touches, he's going to put 100% into. And that's that's an identity.
Hard work is 100% the key ingredient to who I'm trying to develop for people to look up to aspire to be. My mom had that hard work ethic big time, just like two to three jobs at a time. And then I also watched a lot of this from my grandma. We spent a lot of time living with my grandparents. When you're with a young family, you gotta sometimes you live with family members too.
Mm-hmm.
So we lived probably a total of 3 years in their unfinished basements. And so I'm going to spend a ton of time with my grandpa. My grandpa, hard-working man. He was a mechanic at night for, to helping people with their cars. And he's the best mechanic. Like, nobody's a better mechanic than this. He knows how to rebuild every inch of any vehicle. Like, that's what he did. And he would do that at night. He'd work at Chum's in the morning. This is what I saw in Hurricane, we lived in Hurricane. So, but he had a wife that was a paraplegic. My grandma had become paralyzed in a horrific car accident involving their children when she was 34, I want to say 33. And so he was always taking care of her with any extra time that he had, was always taking care of her if he wasn't just working really hard to pay medical bills and all sorts of bills. We didn't lay a handouts, so never would accept anything like that. So I saw huge work ethic from him. I think my mom picked that up and that watched her. So these guys are like rock star, were really hard. And my grandpa never complained about anything ever. Super great man. But I think work ethic 100% is the most respected skill that I see when I look at people. And it's also kind of bad. So if I don't see somebody with a good work ethic, I'm not very nice to them. I'm nice to everybody, but I will be like, keep my distance from them. And then I don't respect them. The respect level goes down really quick if I don't see a hard work ethic.
Yeah, I think that's one important to know about yourself, because some people, although I have a certain opinion of Josh, you may have a different opinion if you don't align with somebody he wants to be aligned with. I want to ask this question though, because I think that belief system maybe filters into this question. You got to grow up with your mom and your grandpa and kind of see this work ethic, but you also are aware that your dad, whatever happened, the divorce happened. Have you met your dad? What was that experience? How do you feel about your dad?
Oh, I love my dad. Yeah, my dad's one of my best friends. He's a great guy. He he has some, challenges. He's 100% disabled vet. So he was in Desert Storm, most highly decorated Desert Storm vet in Utah is my dad. And Desert Storm and Desert Shield. So one thing about my dad, though, is that he kind of took off right when they got divorced. And like I said, when you're a Marine, you don't get a lot of time with your family anyways.
Sure.
So there wasn't a lot of time with them for that 5 years. The time that I did have with them, it was great. He's awesome to me. But after they got divorced, there was a time from about 7 to 14, right at Silla, he was really kind of doing his own thing. It wasn't a ton of involvement. He was there. If ever I called him, he's there for me, but he's in a completely different state or a city that's very far from where we're at. And he's just kind of doing his own thing. So yeah, when I was 15, he got divorced with his second wife, and I spent a whole year with them because I didn't like my stepdad up here with my mom, that they were making me go to church all the time. I was starting to get sick of going to church, definitely didn't want to do that. But more important, mostly the guy was just kind of an idiot, and wasn't very nice. So I'm like, I'm going to move in with my dad. He's recently divorced, and we're starting to develop like a friendship because I'd stay with him for, at that time I stayed with him for the summer, for like a couple months. And I'm like, oh, I really get along with my dad. And you're turning into a man at that time, 14, 15. And you're starting to think about, girls on a totally different level, and he can help out with that. My dad is a very charismatic guy. And I get a lot of my charisma from my dad. Like my personality, for sure, is watching him. I was terrified watching my dad. My dad is like the most extreme extrovert you've ever seen. There's nobody in the world. He doesn't care what you think. He'll say whatever he thinks, and he's really smart with his humor. He knows how to tell stories. So it was extremely intimidating for me. I'm like, I'll never be able to talk to people like my dad. Like, I can't go around with him because I can't even interject with conversations when he's talking to people. Like, I just look stupid. He's so funny. And I learned a lot of charisma from my father. Anyway, so I spent a whole year with him.
Yeah, I want to ask a question here because I don't know the right way to ask it. You don't have to answer it. I don't know the right way that you're going to answer it. I have no idea. But at some point, you made a decision to not respect people who you perceived as not hard workers at some point.
Yeah, there's a little bit of respect loss, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing to know yourself and know what you respect and not. I actually think protect your circles. But I'm curious, because I was talking to my brother after the event, we were driving home, and he was talking about his son, and we grew up like blue collar working. I'm probably one of the few siblings that like ran from blue collar, and I like working on the computer. Like, I'm a cam girl all the way. I'll work in front of a webcam. So like that's me. But most of our siblings, they work hard. And I'm not saying I don't work hard, but what my hard work looks different than somebody who works hard differently. And so he was mentioning how sometimes he sees some of the things that his children are interested in, and like, well, because that doesn't look like work to him, because he sees work as movement, he sees work as construction, he sees work as building and physical results, where somebody else may see work as like very head, math, creation, whatever. And so what you may see as a lazy person maybe works hard differently than you work hard. And I'm not saying that's for everybody. I think you spend enough time with somebody, you start to figure out whether they actually have an identity of a lazy person or they're just a high performer in a different capacity than you are. So I'm not saying over time you don't see that, but a quick snap decision, I'm curious, where did you, deep-seated as a child, get that distaste for what you perceived as lack of work ethic? Did that come from your stepdad? Did that come from that relationship that you're like, yeah, this just isn't for me? Or did that come from somebody else in your life? And I don't want you to, this is not the purpose to speak bad about your stepdad. I just am curious where that came from.
Oh yeah, no, that it wasn't really from that. I think it's just, I think I would see laziness and a lot of the people that weren't doing well with their families. Like I felt like they could have been working harder. Maybe it was some neighbors, or could be family members that I just didn't see really pick up the pace, maybe, and not family members, but like neighbors, or when you live in these communities where the like apartment buildings where they're lower income around you, you can see that there are lazy people out there, and there's a lot of people that pick up checks on a monthly basis from the government. And that can create a pretty vicious cycle, I think, being complacent or not giving it your all. And I feel like I just noticed that in some people. Like, I don't know, that one's rough, Sam.
Yeah, I know. And I'm not trying to get you to target any one person, but I think that it's important that we as individuals, we know where our opinions are coming from. We know where, because it helps us as individuals have more compassion when we realize where motivation. So in my mind, I have a quadrant that I talk about, and it's called the incentive quadrant. And on the top of the quadrant, you have internal and external. And then on the side of the quadrant, you have motivation and inspiration. And a lot of people, when they're in poverty, they're operating out of external motivation. Like, pain and suffering will happen to you if you don't survive, right? Like it's force if you don't. And then they transition from an external motivation position into internal, external. So an external, now I've got my things mixed up. Go back here. So external motivation, internal motivation. Intrinsic. Okay. So intrinsic, which means that the desire is coming from inside of yourself, but it's still motivation. So you're really like this intrinsic motivation where now you're thinking, man, I don't want to miss out on. So the first is I'm going to experience pain if I don't. The second is I'm going to miss out on something good if I don't. So the external motivation is all fear-based and focused on pain and suffering. Intrinsic motivation is focused on FOMO, fear of missing out. And then once you transition from there, you go to an extrinsic extrinsic inspiration, where you're now saying, okay, I'm going to go put myself, like Brand X, I'm going to go put myself in this environment where I'm going to have outside forces, maybe curate my 5 people, and they're going to extrinsically inspire me or influence me to be inspired to do something. And then the top left in my mind is intrinsic inspiration, where we're intrinsically inspired to do something. We don't need Josh to expect it of us. We don't need anybody else to expect it of us. We are internally inspired to do something, intrinsically inspired to do something. And so when you look at this, it's important to know where you are at different parts of your life and in different aspects. So in business, you might be intrinsically inspired to be really great at business, and you might be extrinsically motivated to perform at home. You might be really great, internally inspired to be a great father, great husband, but then extrinsically motivated to go to work every day, or you're going to get fired, or you're going to lose your house, or whatever, right? So there's consequences if you don't perform. So the question in my mind is, how do we get to a point where we're in flow and where most of your activities, if not all of your activities, are all out of either intrinsic or extrinsic inspiration, where you're all acting out of love rather than fear?
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I feel like I'm there right now. Like
I believe you're there, and that's why I want to identify at what point were you in this extrinsic motivation, or
off yourselves. Like I would say off yourselves. Like especially at RC Willie, I'm like, but I'm working in appliance and electronics. Like I don't want to be a TV salesman my whole life. Like that was really, I was thinking about this all the time. And I was reading sales books on a monthly basis at this time too.
Were you seeing other people there that were totally comfortable being a TV salesman their whole life?
Fuck yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
So I think like this is also
older people, and they they just feel like that 80 grand, 85 grand. Maybe I hit a 90K year once in a blue moon is great money, and they're okay with that. And that's actually totally fine if they are okay with that. But then I feel like, man, that's like all they know. That's all they're doing all the time. They're like in a little bit of a bubble,
Well, also, how often
Mr. R.C. Willey or Bill Childs was the total stud that owned it at that point.
Right. But how often are those people who are making $80,000, $85,000, $90,000 who say and profess that they're happy with it, they're okay with it, they settled for that amount and they're fine, but then they also complain about all the things that they're missing out on. And I think that's important when you're analyzing. I think judgment's really good in my life, and I love judging people. And people are like, that's such a weird thing to say. I don't like condemning people. I'm not putting an emotional right or wrong behind somebody else's behaviors, but I'm absolutely judging outcomes and saying, hey, that's the outcome of those habits, mindsets, and behaviors. Do I want that? And I have to make a judgment call. Am I going to accept that in my life or not? So I think judgment is really, really crucial and important. I don't think condemnation is super good. This is where like the condemnation for you comes in. I'm calling you out a little bit, but because I care about you, right? Why do you feel disrespect for somebody who you see as lazy rather than interesting? That's a judgment call. I'd rather not have negative emotions in my life. So I'm not going to choose to disrespect you or not respect you. I'm probably just not going to be around you because it's not what I want, but I don't need to feel any sort of way towards you in that. Anyways, I'm just, and maybe that motivation side is what's driven you to the success you've got. And so there's no right or wrong. I'm just curious where you're at in this conversation.
I feel like, laziness, I just felt like somebody's going to have to pick up your slack at some point, and that's not fair to the people that are picking up the slack. Or like you're saying, like the people that are complacent, and I do notice there's more complaining going on.
So Josh, though, let's look at this from a different perspective. And maybe you want to be, and maybe you don't want to be, and it's okay. Do you want to be somebody, a figure in that potential lazy person's life that could help them see that there's better on the other side? Or do you not care? Do you say, look, you're lazy?
I do want.
Okay, so this is why it matters.
It's a beacon of help.
And this is why your energy, I believe, matters, because I believe that you want to help people. Right? We've had this conversation. I believe that you want to be a change agent for people. But if you're the change agent who goes in with an energy of disrespect for the person you're trying to help, who wants to be helped by somebody who disrespects them?
Well, wait, how did they know that I'm disrespecting them?
Because your energy cycles, like quantum physics, you can go study this. It's worth studying, okay? Your energy either cycles out or it cycles in. So if
I feel that. Yeah, I feel.
So if you're cycling out, you're basically saying I'm better than you, and your energy is going down towards somebody else. If you're cycling in, then you're there to be a servant and to learn and to guide. So that energy, you can, in sales, you learn to control a lot of this energy frequency. Like, believe me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You have to, because you have to be able to hang up somebody.
Best friends with everybody.
Yeah, you have to be able to hang up from somebody who just called the cops on you, sent you to jail, pulled a gun on you, whatever, especially door to door. You have to be able to flip the switch and manage energy. So the fallacy of a salesperson is they think, well, I can manage energy. That's one of the biggest hurdles of a good salesperson, is they manage their energy so well that they think, oh, I can fool that person. They don't need to know how I really feel. And I think that changing yourself and growing is a better choice than to try and fool somebody about how you feel about them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
no, I try to make sure that even if somebody I feel like is maybe distracted and they're not they're not on the right path and I know it, I still try to like be the servant role. Sure, time being. But if it becomes to become a waste of time, they're wasting my time, and I'm like,
yeah, and that's where
kind of glazed over and like, dude, like, you need to like just stop talking and let me help. Let just listen or learn, you know, or you know, maybe not me, but learn from somebody else. But yes, there is. I know what you're talking about, and I try to catch myself so that I'm nice to everybody, and I don't come off that way. And sometimes lazy people are like super terrible, because if they're happy in what they're doing and they're lazy, then they're winning anyways. Like, I have no room to judge on that. Like, no way. Like, if I feel like they're lazy but they're winning and they're clearly happy, then I'll love them to death. Like, that's totally different.
Right.
If somebody's lazy and complaining, that's what I'm like, dude, no, I like hate that energy.
Yeah, and I appreciate you having this conversation, because I know who you are and I know you're a great person. I don't feel like, even though we were digging down on this little thing, anybody who knows Josh, you're going to love Josh, and he's going to love you as well. So I don't want this to come off as like, oh, Sam, you're picking him apart. The reason I felt comfortable doing this conversation with Josh is because I know who he is and he's confident in who he is. I'm confident in who I am. But there's a lot of people who are listening to this who don't understand this intricacy of how they're impacting the people around them. They don't understand the energy of how they're impacting the people around them. And when we can expose this conversation, it allows people to just think a little bit more about how they treat the people around them. And
laziness has to do with sacrifice too. Mm-hmm. Like, are you sacrificing the things you should be sacrificing? Or do you think you're taking too much vacation time? Or do you think you're like thinking about all the things that you shouldn't be doing to do? And I'm partly like, you know, criticizing myself. Like, let's take it back to the security cells. Like, what was I doing all day? You know, I knocked on 10 doors and I called it quits. I did that all the time. Mm-hmm. So I was being lazy. And so if I could yell at my lazy self, I would do it all day. I'd be like, hey, dude, no, you don't get to do that. You don't get to think about your girlfriend, Utah, or whatever stupid stuff you're thinking about, you know? Just go knock the doors. Everything will be all right as long as you make money. So just keep selling, you know? So that's probably more to do, like, you know, I'm never actively going after anybody or trying to criticize anybody. I've been around too many different environments and too many different types of people to know that, like, people will always be evolving, and there's good in so many people, and like, I don't know, I'm not trying to pick on you.
No, I know you're not. But I like having these conversations because it allows us to hyper target little tiny niche.
Oh yeah. And people can think of me in a certain way when I say certain things. So if you call me out, that's like, well, I love it, because I don't know that I'm coming off that way. So
yeah, no, absolutely. So we're out of time today. If you're open to another one, I only got to 2 of the questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
But that's okay. I super appreciate this conversation.
I appreciate you, Sam, so much. Yeah.
If you guys are
grateful to be on your podcast, and yeah, you're so smart. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. I received that. If you guys want to go, not if you want to, just go do it. Go follow Josh on Instagram. Go follow him on Facebook. He does super fun things. Like his mortgage brand, probably it makes him a lot of money right now, and the other one will make him a lot of money too. But his Bullfit brand, I think he's getting to share a lot more of his personality through Bullfit. And so it's an expression of a little bit of who he is. And I think you should go follow that, not because of the company. I follow it not because of the company, but because of I get to learn a little bit more about, like, what does Josh think? What is the fun things that he does? What does he think is fun? What does he think is exciting? What does he think is a little bit off color that I actually think is off color too, but I like that it's off color. I like that he's pushing the boundaries. And I think that that's where you get to learn about a lot of people, when you get to see what are they creating And then look in the mirror and ask, what are you creating? Say, hey, are you effectively showing yourself? Are you allowing yourself to show up publicly? Or are you still hiding behind whatever you're hiding behind? And I think that it's okay to share yourself. It's okay to share the world, how you want to be seen. And that's what I like about watching Josh over the last 2 years grow. And it's just going to get bigger and better. It's awesome. It's amazing.
So cool. Oh, thank you so much. You hit it on the nose 100%. It's really hard to express yourself in finance. The financing world's not that fun, but yeah, with Bullfit, I am able to express myself in a much brighter way. And that's partly due to my partners being that I've been friends with them for so long. They know how to push me into doing funny things too and being me. I mean, yeah.
That's mine. It's ringing.
How dare you?
I know. How dare I? Okay. Well, what is your Instagram? If somebody wanted to go follow it.
Joshua Dale Graves. Yeah. Joshua Dale Dale Graves Graves.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show.
Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.